too many kids are consuming high-calorie food with low nutritional value, and they're not getting enough exercise. It's plain and simple. They're not eating right, and they're not moving their bodies at all.
And that's why 1 in 3 American children is overweight or obese.
A third of American children are considered obese or overweight, and the number of children growing obese, that's quadrupled in the last few decades.
Will this generation of U.S. children be the first to live shorter lives than their parents? We examine the U.S. obesity threat.
In the United States, we are experiencing a national epidemic. The government is actually categorizing obesity as an epidemic because of the propensity of diabetes, coronary heart disease, asthma, and all sort of disparities having to do with particularly African Americans and Latinos. Currently, the Center for Disease Control and the Thomas Rivera Policy Institute has cited statistics that tell us that 24% in California alone represents the population of those ethnic groups. They're either overweight or obese. Based on the qualitative and quantitative data that we collected, we did find that there was a shift in behavior, a shift in knowledge, and a shift in attitude. One of the consequences that has to do with obesity is that it begins to affect some psychosocial issues for the girls. So it begins to affect their self-esteem, self-image. They began to tell us, wow, I know when they're using a celebrity to try to influence me, or they're using that particular persuasive technique, the warm and fuzzy technique to make me feel like, oh, I really want to, go out and buy this or go out and eat this.
The obesity epidemic is pretty easy to trace because when you look at proportions, when you look at advertising, when you look at the sedentary behavior of individuals in a very busy society, I certainly can see that it's not just a matter of individual choice, but there are structures that exist that have encouraged people to make choices that are unhealthy choices.
There is so much concern about the problem of obesity, especially among these vulnerable groups. We still have not been able to develop measures that actually stop or at least slow down the rate of that epidemic. The fact that so many children and adolescents not only have condition of obesity but also suffer from repercussions, health consequences of it. So obviously it's a very relevant, very important topic, not only important to practitioners but policymakers and academics.
We all know that the obesity rates are going higher and higher. It used to be probably around 33%, it's much higher now and we're getting close to 50%, which is very scary because if we think about in 10-20 years we can have majority of our population obese, and it's not just going to be African Americans and Latinos, but this problem exists in the white population as well. So it's a national issue. It's not just a specific ethnicity that's dealing with it. And the earlier we start looking for solutions and implementing interventions and providing educational and awareness workshops, the earlier we don't have to maybe hit the 80% obesity rate.
My thoughts in general about the national obesity epidemic, it honestly just breaks my heart that this is such a big epidemic in America, because I think if we were to implement more programs like this for young girls and kids in general, that would encourage them to live an active and healthy lifestyle. And particularly for African American young girls, they simply don't have the knowledge or the resources available to them to eat healthy or to know about what it means to eat right or have the right portions, and that you can still have really good food but it's still good for you. So I think that all of us need to proactively do different things to try to help the younger generation so we can put this epidemic to an end.
The obesity epidemic in America is affecting all people of all race, ethnicity, age, and as it is affecting their quality of health, it is most certainly affecting quality of life as well.
We can kind of assume, unfortunately, that these girls will grow up eating these unhealthy food, and this eventually leads to obesity in America, which is unfortunate.
Kids nowadays are just not as active. I mean, back when I was I was a young kid, my mom tell me to go outside. She didn't have to worry about me until the street lights came on. Now you gotta almost force the kids to go outside. Outside is not something they rather do. They rather sit in front of the television, talk on the phone, texting and so forth. It's more of a electronic world, techie world right now, or generation, I should say. Exercise is not priority, so for them to be active is not something that you will see. You have to be very creative, especially with girls, to get them actively involved in physical activity.
When it came time for me to develop this intervention, since I became a professor at Cal State Northridge, I decided to go back to a location where I felt that they would have the number of participants that I would want to work with, and that they were open and receptive to this kind of work.
Her project relates to supporting young girls, particularly African American girls, in learning about how the media, how the nutritional choices, the exercise choices that they make has a huge difference to their health and their future.
So the program at Challengers Boys and Girls Club, it is community-based, it's culturally relevant, it's health-centered as opposed to weight-centered, and it is a psychosocial program that also works with the girls in terms of their emotional well-being.
When you're overweight and you have like a disease,
it's common in most Americans because we have more junk food than probably any other country. Obesity is caused by eating too much sugar or salty things. And like most times, obesity can lead to heart attacks and you could die.
Obesity is when you overeat and it can be led to strokes. You can possibly die.
Obesity is like when you eat a lot of food and then you start to gain a lot of weight, and then sometimes it goes to the point where you're like on the borderline of dying, so you're gonna have to like start working out and being in healthy shape and start eating more healthy foods.
Another thing about obesity is that it can lead to diabetes too, because all that sugar.
It's very important that we don't unintentionally make kids more paranoid or more self-conscious.
Great. All right.
Beauty is within. Self-image.
Yeah, beauty is inside of you. It doesn't have to necessarily be.
Believe yourself about everything about you. And you don't need all those. Have self-esteem.
Even the people that get how many plastic surgeries, do they look perfect? No, they probably end up looking worse, right?
There isn't enough kinds of classes for young people to understand about nutrition, to really get an idea of what it is that they're eating and how many calories those are, what overeating, the kinds of things that would happen as a result of eating too much and eating too much over time. And the propensity of them being an obese adult is pretty prevalent.
Without our vitamins and minerals, what's inside of our body, and all the little reactions going on to keep us healthy, they need the vitamins and minerals. They do not work without them.
There's something about the Western bacon.
The Carl's Jr. Western Bacon $6 burger with 100% Black Angus beef. More than just a piece of meat.
One of the most important elements of this program is teaching young girls media literacy. The extent to which they are inundated with media messages, sometimes they don't really get a sense of, wow, this is making me think a certain way, or wow, this is making me want to do a certain thing. They don't really realize that advertisers spend billions of dollars promoting high density, high caloric, nutrient-free kinds of food for them. And because of the fact that we were heightening their awareness to not only nutrition, but making them more media literate.
They use ordinary people to just make it seem like ordinary people use ordinary products. So I'm ordinary too, so I want that product as well. I can have it, or it probably will suit me because they're ordinary, I'm ordinary. So it makes you feel like you can relate to the advertisement.
With Febreze, they have ordinary people come into stinky cars, and they spray Febreze, and then they be like, it smells good, and then once they take off the blindfold, they say, ew. They see all the mess.
Does that make you feel like you can, relate to it? Like, oh, I can get that product and use it too in a normal house, like, like my house.
With the GIS mapping and the photo mapping, the young women are now aware that even in their neighborhood, they can discern certain advertisements, billboards and bus stops, and they know that there is a wide variety of liquor stores and not that many grocery stores. And so we are hoping that the young girls at least think about what they're eating and what they're doing.
When I was in charge of taking pictures at the girls' neighborhoods to see what's out there, what's around their neighborhood, it was pretty sad because a lot of the advertisements and a lot of the stores were mainly grocery stores and grocery stores that are not with healthy food.
Always believe that you're beautiful no matter what. I learned that you're beautiful in your own skin and don't change that to just try to be yourself around everybody. Learn that you should have a good attitude no matter what. I learned that you should never have a low self-esteem because it might make you look bad and you won't think about the good things that you should.
I learned that to have self-esteem in yourself and always believe in yourself even though people bring you down or doubt you. Because I'm part of the M.I.S.S program, I know I'm beautiful.
The M.I.S.S program is a life-changing for girls because it teaches them how to eat healthy and about media and about your self-esteem. Girls should come to this program because they need to learn how to have a high self-esteem instead of having a low self-esteem.
The M.I.S.S program will help girls all around the world because it really helped me with my nutrition, my self-esteem, and about doing things about media.
too many kids are consuming high-calorie food with low nutritional value, and they're not getting enough exercise. It's plain and simple.